What's up, YouTube? We're gonna have a discussion today. So today, I wanted to talk about yo-yo copying. So, yo-yo copying, and just sort of the taking of other people's yo-yo ideas and things that have been popular for other companies and morphing them and, I guess, adapting them or just straight up copying them and other companies using them. Now, this comes up all the time. This is kind of a thing that companies are called out on all the time, and throughout the yo-yo community have been called out on a zillion times, whether it be colorway use, shape appropriation, design appropriation, or what have you. But let me kind of let you know what happened and what sort of sparked this idea for a discussion. So last week, I guess, Yo-Yo Freaks, who is run by my buddy JD, came out and sort of posted a thing about the Super Freak and called it the SF. And apparently internal sources have said that the SF, the Super Freak, is very close to the Cadence. I can neither confirm nor deny that. I haven't actually held or played a Super Freak. Some pictures I've seen make it seem like it might have some SF type design elements, but it doesn't look super close to me. But I'm sure I'll have one at some point, and we'll hold them up. We'll check it out. I mean, if it is, it is, and we'll be able to see it. I won't be able to hide it on camera, and we'll do a video. But anyway, so that came up. SF came out to clarify and say, look, this is not a collaboration. We're not a part of this design. We're not a part of any of this. This is not our yo-yo. This is just a Yo-Yo Freaks yo-yo. And as the internet is wont to do sometimes, a public execution ensued. And it sort of died down by the end of the day. Nobody said anything since then, so I'm probably remiss in bringing this back up. But, it is what it is, and I need content, damn it. So that was that. In addition to that, maybe on a smaller scale, but we don't really know yet, it'll probably be bigger once it actually comes out, there was a picture released of either a Top Yo or another Yo-Yo Freaks yo-yo. I'm not sure what the picture was shared of. I didn't see the picture. I didn't know the origin of the picture, that had the Swirl, sort of like a G2 Swirl. I don't have a G2 Swirl out on the desk. I should have done that. But anyway, and I guess Top Yo has figured out sort of a Swirl way, and it looked very much like the Mail Day Colorway Swirl. And there was some drama behind that because Jake has really kind of a lockdown on the Swirl. It's a very difficult process to get done, and it takes some time. It takes time and money to get locked down and figured out, and Jake has invested that time and money, and it's been very successful for him. The G2 Swirls are the most coveted G2s. Not that all G2s aren't coveted, but they're the most coveted G2s, and some of them are pretty friggin' awesome. I've got a few of them, and they're some of the prettiest yo-yos I have, like, by far. Very few things compare, and Jake was really proud of that, but somebody figured it out. I don't know if that was bound to happen. It probably was. Jake and I have sort of had that conversation, like, somebody's gonna figure this out eventually, but I guess there was a lot of input maybe from YoYoBESTBUY and JD as well into getting that figured out. I don't have a whole lot of insight on that, but it is what it is, I suppose, at this point. So let's talk about it. So first and foremost, let's talk about design copying. So yo-yo design particularly, man, I touch a lot of yo-yos, so it's really hard for me to say that it's, wrong to copy another design or to have a design that's similar to another design, because so many yo-yos are so similar to so many other yo-yos. And, it's one thing, like, let's say hypothetically, let's just do a hypothetical. Let's say, so this is the Yo-Yo Factory Shutter, very successful yo-yo, right? Let's say another company puts out, and let's say they are a yo-yo manufacturer. Let's say that's their brand name. And this is going to be really blatant and bad. And they put out, instead of the shutter, the yo-yo manufacturer camera lens. But it looks just like this. down to the hub and everything. Let's say maybe instead of the cup kind of having that little swoop up, let's say that it like kind of like rounds over or something. Let's say that's slightly different, but otherwise profile's the same. You could hold them next to each other and be like, and if they play the same. What comes in to the problem is the knockoff and the sort of appropriation of the design and of the colorway. And I can see that, in all honesty, I totally can see that, and I understand that. But at the same time, you know, I feel like it's sort of hard to maintain that as well, at least in a capitalist system. So let's talk about design first and shape. So shapes just end up being very similar. You know, I've got a lot of yo-yos, I've held up a lot of yo-yos, like this yo-yo looks like this yo-yo, but it's a little bit better, and this yo-yo kind of plays like this yo-yo, but it's a little bit better. It's a thing that I very much try to do in reviews. When I review a yo-yo, I'm very much wanting to take one yo-yo and say, hey, this plays kind of like this yo-yo, and then, you know, but explain the differences, as minute as they may be, and kind of just go from there. So that was just something I was doing. I was never doing that as sort of a like, oh, this yo-yo is totally a copy of this yo-yo, or copy of that yo-yo, or what have you. It's just sort of like, this yo-yo fits into this realm of yo-yos, and it's closest to this one. Because there's so many yo-yos in this realm, more than one yo-yo is going to end up being close to. So these are both Top Yos, and Top Yo, I guess, is sort of caught up in this controversy at the moment, but Top Yo's put out some pretty unique stuff before as well. This is the Turbine, and this is the Silenus. Now, the Silenus is really more or less a better version of the Turbine. It's sort of a Turbine meets a little wider, a little heavier than an Orca, a little more powerful, a little more rim weight. The cup design is pretty similar to the Orca. The Orca is really just this has sort of almost a double rim, or like a cutback rim. This has, the Orca is just sort of a like very much like, here's some rim weight. This is a little different, but on the string, they're similar. They're similar widths. This is a little wider, and there's that organic H-shaped thing. But to me, it's really more like this. This is nothing like an Orca. This plays nothing like an Orca. If anything, this plays like a really heavy top deck or something. But the shape design is rather similar. So I feel like this took from this, and this is failings, so to speak. This one kind of plays like a rock. I haven't reviewed it, but it kind of plays like a rock. It's okay. It's kind of a fun EDC. But it's like, it kind of plays like a rock. But this kind of took from that, improved upon it, and kind of incorporated in other elements of other yo-yos that I like, at least. The Orca being one in particular, and came up with this. And honestly, this is probably my favorite like budget metal $35 yo-yo, but a lot of people would call this an Orca copy. I don't think it's an Orca copy per se. I wouldn't agree with that, but a lot of people would. And I think that's sort of where that kind of starts to come in, is, you know, there's a lot of yo-yos in the market right now. There's a ton. A zillion of them. I feel like one comes out every day. Eventually yo-yos are going to be close, and a lot of yo-yos are going to be close, and you're going to have multiple yo-yos that are pretty darn similar. Straight up copies and appropriation of names and colorways and stuff to sort of make it look like the same yo-yo, but it's not. Back to the fake near again. That can be problematic, but for the most part, the community's pretty smart, and we come down on stuff like that. I come down on stuff like that. When fake nears come out, or, you know, somebody uses a knockoff yo-yo or something, I make a big deal about that, because I want money injected into the yo-yo community, not into some company that's just in it to make a quick buck by knocking off something that's not, that, you know, by knocking off a yo-yo that's popular and then taking that money, hoarding it, and taking it away from the community. I think that's wrong. I'd rather inject money into the community than take it out. But when somebody who is very intertwined into the yo-yo community and who is very sort of integral and puts together major contests, etc., does something that's sort of a similar thing, or maybe you know, kind of a sort of in the vein of I tend to let that go because I know that, you know, if they make money, it's still going to go back into the community. And if it's something that already does well, for existence, Yo-Yo Freaks, everything Yo-Yo Freaks puts out ends up selling out. There's really only ever 100 of them. JD does a lot for the Yo-Yo community. JD does a lot for me. I mean, let's just put it, you know, I try to give back as best as I can. JD does a lot for me. And he puts on 2 major contests a year, organizes them. It stresses the crap out of him. I know because I talked to him about it. And, you know, he really just goes all in and puts all this time, all this energy, all this effort into it. And it's not really like a lucrative thing for him. Like, Yo-Yo just sort of helps him pay for Yo-Yo stuff. And he's got like a real job like the rest of us do. And it's like, you know, we just kind of want Yo-Yo to pay for itself. You know what I mean? So the fact that all of that sort of gets re-injected back in, to me, I don't want to say it gets a pass, because honest to God, if it shows up and it looks like this, I'm going to call it out. Period. I mean, that's the long and short of it. If it's dead on, I'll be like, look how close it is. I can't not show you this. I don't think it's going to be that close. I've kind of seen some other shots. Kind of looks like it's going to be a little closer to like the ND Ultra, but even not that close to that. So there's sort of a like closeness, but not closeness, and I think it's still going to sort of fall into the realm of, well, lots of yo-yos are similar to other yo-yos, and this isn't a direct copy. It's definitely not going to be, because I know the Super Freak is a bimetal, and this is a 7068 monometal. So as far as how close it's going to be, I mean, it's not going to play anything like it because the materials are different. But I understand where creators are coming from when things like that frustrate them. I get it. I'm not cold to that, and I'm not deaf to that either. I think that it's important to have creative integrity, but at the same time, I sort of feel like there's, you know, occasionally we go too far with the sort of like, this is a copy of this. Now, I don't know what the sort of back and forth between JD and Kieran and SF. I don't know what happened. I don't want to know. I don't want to get involved. But they have to work that out on their own. From my perspective, the yo-yo shows up and it's sort of similar-ish, but totally different still. I mean, I'm just going to point it out to you as like, here's a yo-yo, here's how it plays. It's different, but it's probably wide still. I mean, this in and of itself is not that extreme of a yo-yo design either. You know what I mean? Like, SF doesn't do extreme yo-yo designs, although they are very uniquely SF. And if you were to line them all up and look them, oh yeah, those are SF designs, because they're very simple, but still very like fun and play very well. Keep it simple, stupid. You know, that should really be SF's motto, I think. You guys are welcome. You could steal that. You can have that one. But does it matter? And let's kind of get back to colorways, I guess, before we talk about it, whether or not it matters. So colorways, talked about the Swirl before. I don't think that was going to be a thing that was just going to be on lockdown. Eventually, one of the Chinese anodizers was going to figure it out. You know, the fact that maybe an American company kind of got in and sort of helped or tweaked it along, you know, I guess was sort of the thing that was bound to happen, but I just think it was bound to happen. It was going to be a thing that was going to happen. It was just going to happen. So that gets me back to, does it matter? I mean, I think it matters at least immediately when it happens. I think it becomes a big deal for that moment. But yo-yo's a youth movement, and within a youth movement, you always have to be chasing that next best thing. You have to be chasing that next upgrade. What's the next thing that's going to be awesome in yo-yo? You gotta keep moving. You can't be complacent. So if swirls become a norm, just like splashes became a norm, everybody makes splashes. Splashes are a norm. I'm sure somebody did it first, and then everybody else followed suit. Splashes are a norm. Now, fades have become a norm. This is a fade. Fades and splashes and all that stuff. It's all become a norm. So if swirls just enter that realm of things that are already a norm, you got to find the next thing. And what's the next thing going to be? I don't know. I don't have that answer. Yo-yo is a youth movement, and the next thing has to be chased after each and every time. You can't get complacent with it. And I'm not saying Jake's complacent. Please don't take it like that. I love Jake. I love the G2 Swirl, and I still think it's going to probably end up being the best and most unique swirl. You know, there are things that will come similar to them, but just like the old Splash CLYW stuff that had the splashes with the fades and stuff, you know, there's going to be good and fine, and then there's going to be the best. And I think that the G2 Swirls are probably always going to be the best as long as Jake stays on top of it. And I know Jake's hungry, and this is his passion, and I know he will. So I'm not worried for him. He might be worried because he's seen one picture, and I understand where he's coming from, but I'm not worried for him because I know he's still going to end up on top because he's the man, and that's what they do. So I don't think this is going to hurt Jake. I just don't. But I think the lesson to be learned is don't sleep. Yo-yo is a youth movement. You gotta always be pushing and pushing the next big thing, pushing the next big, you know, colorway, pushing the next big design change and design idea. But that's gonna do it for me today, guys. I know this is kind of a long one. I'm sorry. I'm having a beer. It happens. But thanks for watching, guys. Cheers to you. I'll see you next time.